Obviously we're not pleased with the result. The script was a little bit similar to last week in a certain regard. First goal is a handball goal. But that's just the way it's been going. But, we've got to find a way to create our own luck. We've got to find a way to pull ourselves up.
Matt? Similar script and the same lineup to last week. What did you see from your team last week that led you to believe that it could be different this time around?
We created chances in the first half. It was just a matter of finishing those chances. So if you can get out there, we'll put you out there and finish chances.
Are you seeing in any way if this is taking a toll either on your team's effort or their confidence?
I think it's taking a toll on their confidence. Yeah, a lot of times you get down when you're not, getting a goal. I think other teams know that we're struggling, getting a goal, so they're playing it tight in the back and hoping they can get one, thinking it's going to be difficult for us. And the only way you can change that is you can get a result, or somebody needs to, just stand up, and something needs to go your way at some point. What that magical moment is, or the magical word, I wish I knew, because, it's just something that happens organically oftentimes.
Nick? How much do you think the Lampard goal changed the game today?
It changes the whole game. It's a handball. Referee doesn't call it. They discuss it. The linesman's thinking, no, it was no handball on Lampard. It wasn't a handball on Lampard. It was a handball before. They don't see it. Now we're down 1-0. Their confidence is up. Our confidence is down.
Andrew? Coach, in the second half, were you satisfied with the level of involvement in build-up play from Freeburg and Evenshitz?
Yeah, I thought they were all right. Where we had difficulties were, they started breaking down on us. Harrison started breaking us down on our left side, on their right side, and we struggled out there. And obviously we gave a goal away on a silly mistake at the end. But I thought that's where we had more problems. I thought overall, again, I thought our possession, but we're like right now we're like a blunt razor.
Jackson?
Coach, how does putting the speed of Jones and Kovar and Morris up at the forward position, especially in the first half, change the offensive strategy in terms of the long passes we saw throughout the first half?
Well, they play a high line on defense, so it's not our personnel that dictates that. It's their approach to the game. And, Red Bull last week played a high line too. And so we felt we could get behind their high line, and we did. But once you get behind the high line, you got breakaways and, things, instead of going 1.5 feet wide, it's got to go, 6 inches inside the post.
Follow-ups. Don?
You may have just sort of indirectly answered this, but what is the thinking on bringing Valdez off the bench these days?
He's still working his way in terms of fitness, because they really didn't train much with Paraguay, and we wanted to keep Morris inside. Don't think, necessarily, playing wide for him is the best. So when we brought him in, we put him inside. At the end of the game, we switched more to a 4-4-2 and let him and Morris play together up front.
Matt?
And the margin for error for you guys just seems so thin right now. Is that a lack of goals thing? Is that a confidence thing? What do you sort of attribute that to?
It's a lack of goals thing. Goals change everything. If you score, if the first breakaway goes in, if the second breakaway goes in, even when we're down 1-0, if the third breakaway goes in, then all of a sudden, everybody's chest puffs out a little bit and everybody feels a little better, and we move on.
Jackson?
Coach, last year in kind of the rough stretch you took, you talked about the dam needing to break, when it would break, everything would be fine. It was fine eventually, and you made the playoffs. Is that sort of the same thought right now, is that the dam just has to break, and when it does?
Yeah, the dam has to break, but the difference is we're a much younger team. So you're putting guys out there, Morris, who's a rookie, Kovar, who's young in terms of his minutes in MLS. Olex is a young MLS player as well. Roldan's minutes are sort of limited. So, you don't have some of the guys that had like more MLS experience that we had on the team last year. So that makes a little bit of difference. So we gotta rock and roll with that a little bit, because that's just the way it is. But on the same token, those guys now have enough minutes that we as a team need to create more. So me as a coach, it's all on my shoulders, and thinking about different things that we can do at training, how we can build them up, and so forth. And we've done all those, we've done things that we think are going to be beneficial. We've seen more goals at training, but yet, again, we had chances, didn't translate to goals in games.